Well, all right. Welcome to Death of a Sales Manager, the podcast that's killing off lazy, selfish leadership one episode at a time. I'm your host, Jesse, and today we're diving into a topic that's got salespeople everywhere nodding in frustration because of the high cost of no training and the curse of the bad leadership. You know the type, managers who expect you to hit their numbers, but they're not even willing to lift a finger to teach you how, right? So spoiler alert, it's a recipe for disaster, but we're going to unpack why with a little humility, dash of humor, and a whole lot of truth. So grab your coffee, get your energy drink, your Celsius, or your stress ball. Let's get into this. So let's set the scene. The no training nightmare. Picture this. You're a new sales rep, fresh on the job, eager to crush it. You're ready to learn, to grow, to make some big commissions, right? But where's your sales manager? There's nowhere to be found. Or worse, they're hovering over you, barking, "Why aren't you closing deals?" The problem is they're screaming at you and they're not even willing to show you how. Does that sound familiar? I've been there, man. Early in my career, I had a manager who thought training was handing me a 300-page product manual and saying, check it, read it, hit the bricks, right? Coach of the year, come on. That's not leadership, that's abandonment. And it's not just annoying, man. It's expensive for the team, for the company, and especially for the morale. So today we're breaking down why a lack of training is a business killer and how bad managers make it even worse. The cost of no training, dollars and dreams. Let's talk about numbers first, because nothing gets companies' attention like the bottom line. When sales managers skimp on training, you might as well just be flushing some cash down the toilet. There's plenty of studies out there that show companies with solid training programs see sales performance jump upwards of 20%. So if you're a store that's selling 100 cars and you're jumping up 120%, that means you're hitting 120 cars. Let's just take an average $3,000 times another 20 cars. That's 60 grand. Come on, that's not chump change. That can be millions, hundreds of thousands, up to millions in revenue for the small teams as much as the big teams. But meanwhile, the untrained reps are, they're out there fumbling pitches, they're losing deals, and in some cases, they're even alienating your customers. I read this post on X the other day from a salesperson that said, my manager expects me to sell a product I barely understand. I'm winging it, and it shows. Ouch. That's not just one sale or one lost sale. That's a customer who's probably never coming back. The thing is, it's not just about the money. The human cost is brutal. Untrained salespeople feel like they're drowning. They're stressed. They're second guessing every move and burning out faster than a cheap candle, right? I've seen it firsthand. Good people quitting because their manager wouldn't invest an hour to teach them the ropes. I wasn't always the best at asking for help either. I thought I could fake it till I made it. Does that sound familiar? Come on. I didn't make it. Training matters, guys. And without it, you're setting your team up for a faceplant. So here's the curse of the bad leader, a diminisher in action. So let's zoom in on the real culprits. It's bad sales managers. I call them diminishers. Leaders who shrink their team's potential instead of unlocking it. These are the folks who think training is a waste of time. Yeah, I've recently heard that one. Come on. They say things like, you should have already known this, or my personal favorite, just watch what I do. Oh, really? Come on. I'm supposed to learn how to close a deal by watching you sip coffee and scroll through your phone. And lots of times I've seen other managers checking out parts for their sports cars or looking at new boats. And hell, I've even seen some of these managers that in the sales meetings, they're complaining about numbers. And I can tell you why. They're living in $750,000 homes, spending $100,000 on new cars. I'll tell you, I've witnessed the entire sales and finance teams all driving $80,000 and $90,000 vehicles, while the sales team are barely barely keeping their vehicles, their older vehicles, up to maintenance level, right? Talking about, I don't have enough money to put on in my gas tank, or I'm struggling making my car payments, or I can't even afford to put a new windshield in my car, or I can't fix the tail light in my vehicle, man. I mean, it's bad news. But to get back on track, diminishers are lazy, they're selfish, and sometimes even those people are just clueless. They expect miracles. They expect the team to hit their quotas, but again, not even providing information. And then when they don't provide the training or the closing techniques, they get pissed off. They talk down and patronize the way that they make their sales team feel. I've seen these salespeople walk away from the desk feeling half their height because they didn't know what the interest rates were, and the customer left. I mean, come on, man. If you're training and making sure that your team are informed, and guess what? Training does that. But if you're making sure that your teams are well informed and they know how to handle these questions, it's a game changer. But again, getting back to the miracles that I expect, you can't expect anything out of your team if you're not willing to give them the tools to succeed. I had this manager once who bragged about his sink or swim philosophy. The unfortunate part, most of us sank. And the ones who did swim, they left for better companies or better dealerships. The irony is these managers think they're saving time by skipping training, but they're creating chaos. The missed quotas and angry clients, high turnover, it's a vicious cycle. Here's the humbling part. I've been guilty of assuming my team got it without checking in. It's very easy to slip into that trap, but great leaders climb out of it. So let's discuss the ripple effect, how bad leadership tanks everything. Let's talk about this ripple effect of no training and bad leadership. It's like dropping a boulder in a pond. The splash hits everyone. First, the sales team suffers, but without training, they're guessing their way through pitches, which leads to low confidence and lousy results. I saw a stat that said 70% of salespeople feel unprepared to handle objections because they were never trained on it. That's not their fault. That's on the manager. Some of you know, I've said this before, if you're not hitting your numbers, blame your sales manager. But then the customers feel it. The untrained reps come off as unprofessional, and clients don't stick around for that. I heard a story from a listener who said that their rep pitched a product that didn't even exist anymore because nobody updated them. Yikes, man. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And don't get me started on the company's reputation. A bad sales experience spreads faster than gossip at a family reunion, right? But finally, the whole organization takes a hit. High turnover means constant hiring and onboarding, which costs a fortune. Some estimates say replacing a salesperson costs 1.5 times their annual salary, all because a manager couldn't be bothered to run a training session. It's maddening, but it's fixable, and that's where we're headed next. So how do we kill off this curse of crummy leadership? By replacing diminishers with liberators, managers who empower their teams. Liberators don't just demand results, they show you how to get there. They're the ones running role plays, giving constructive feedback, and make training a regular thing, not a one and done event. I worked with a liberator once, and it was night and day. She'd sit with us, walk through calls, and celebrate our wins, no matter how small. It wasn't just about hitting numbers. It was about growing as a team and growing professionally on an individual basis. Here's a quick tip for managers listening. Start small. You don't have to go into a week's worth of training, but set up a 30-minute per day training session. Cover one skill, objection handling, closing techniques, whatever. Make it interactive, not a lecture. And if you're a salesperson stuck with a diminisher, don't wait for them to step up. Seek out training yourself. Online courses, books, even YouTube. Look, when I was selling cars, I went through the same process. I was sent to a dealership in Nebraska where they had a corporate sales trainer. In hindsight, the dude was a weak suck, right? But I needed that introduction. I needed those word tracks. I needed to learn it, and I still know to this day, 26 years later, I still remember that meet and greet and all the word tracks, word for word. that was my introduction back in the late part of 1998. But that 1 week was about the extent, and that was about all the training that they offered us. The rest, when my first and second month into it, I was selling 1, 2, or 3 cars. Man, I was discouraged. It sucked. I didn't want to do it. As a matter of fact, I actually went to my boss and asked him, "Hey, can I go back to just washing cars? I'm just not good at this sales thing." But fortunately enough, I had a couple of other managers that believed in me, gave me some time, gave me a book to read. And it was a book that was very helpful. But anyways, after I read the book, things just seemed to turn around. I felt that the support was very good for me. And next thing you know, I'm selling cars. And, I went from, I think I was at 2 or 3 cars for the month, and I wound up selling 13 by the end of the month. What I did after was, since I wasn't going to get the closer, my floor managers or the desk managers to come out and hold any kind of training, I decided to invest, a couple of $1,000s. I went to go see a top at that time back in 1999. He was a sales trainer that was absolutely amazing. Learned a majority of what I know now, thanks to all the training he provided. It was definitely worth the $2,000 I spent just for that. I believe it was 3 days back then. To this day, I still use a lot of the info, and it's definitely helped out. Guys, I had to put an emphasis on the training aspect. So again, I didn't have the sales managers that were offering it at any time. Not on a daily, not on a weekly, not on a monthly, not even every 6 months. They never offered it. So what I did is all the information and the products that I bought, I would ask my other salespeople. I was one of 15 salespeople at this dealership. And I would literally ask every one of them, can you spend just a couple of minutes and just be the customer that says no to everything? I would do my pitch. They'd say no. And I would come back with a rebuttal or how I was overcoming these objections. I would do it. I would sit there and overcome every freaking objection that they would throw at me until they finally said yes. And I did that 3 or 4 or 5, 6 times a day. But I was always prepared for when that customer would come in. I was ready for whatever they had to say. So if I took 25 ups for the month, I sold 16, 17, sometimes 18. Best month at 23. And I owe it all to the sales training. There's no way around it. Regardless of what the cost is, just get in there and invest in it. I'm telling you, you're not going to regret it. I want to address, or actually, let's talk about stopping the cycle. Let's wrap this up with a challenge. So if you're a sales manager, take a hard look in the mirror. Are you a diminisher or a liberator? If you're not investing in your team's training, you're not just failing them, you're failing your company and yourself. Step up. Schedule that training session. Be the leader your team deserves. And if you're a salesperson dealing with a crummy manager, don't give up. Share your struggles with us. Hit us up on X and email me with any of the stories that fuel this show. And we'll keep calling out bad leadership until it's extinct. So companies, listen up. Hold your managers accountable. Tie their bonuses to team development, not just quotas. Because when you let lazy leaders skate by, you're paying the price in dollars, in morale, and in missed opportunities. Let's kill the old school, do-nothing sales managers mindset and build teams that thrive. So that's all for today. Episode of Death of the Sales Manager. If you got a story about a lazy manager or a training horror show, we want to hear it. Drop us a message on X, or you can email us, and I'll have the email and the contact info at the end. And if you're loving the show, please leave us a review. It helps reach more people and keep this mission alive. Next week, we're going to be tackling some other about the toxic sales culture before it kills your career. Until then, keep selling, keep learning, and let's bury bad leadership for good. I'm Jesse, and this is Death of a Sales Manager. We'll see you next time. Oh, and one last thing. Managers, if you're still thinking training's optional, just remember, a team without training is like a car without gas. It may look nice, but it's not going anywhere. See you next week.
Peace.